Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to our second edition of Breaking News for this Thursday. It's the 24th day of July, 2025. And since we were with you last, we've had two huge stories that have come across the wire. So let's get right to them. First of all, Steve Witkoff has pulled his team from ceasefire talks in Doha. Israelis have done the same thing. He says Hamas is not acting in good faith. And he said it looks like we'll have to find other options on how to deal with Hamas. This is an amazing, big story. And at the same time, here's one just as huge. France to recognize Palestinian state in September, Macron says. So he's going to recognize a Palestinian state. And what a day to do it. At the same time, U.S. and Israel pull out of these ceasefire talks because Hamas is not budging. And now you want to hand them a Palestinian state, huh? And finally, we've got the third headline. This is Netanyahu now. His response to Macron, Palestinian state would be launch pad to annihilate Israel. It certainly would be. Huge stories. They're everywhere across the wire. And so we're going to put a combination of sources we're going to look at to put it together. Here's what we've done. All right, here's headline number one. Witkoff pulls team from ceasefire talks, says Hamas not acting in good faith. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Trump envoy says terror group clearly shows a lack of desire to reach a ceasefire in Gaza. U.S. will now explore alternative options to secure hostage release. Explore alternative options. Interesting. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff announced Thursday that Washington is pulling its delegation from ceasefire negotiations in Doha and accused Hamas of undermining the talks. While the mediators have made a great effort, Hamas does not appear to be coordinated or acting in good faith. We'll now consider alternative options to bring the hostages home and try and create a more stable environment for the people of Gaza, he said. It's a shame that Hamas has acted in this selfish way. We are resolute in seeking an end to this conflict and a permanent peace in Gaza. Earlier, the Israeli government announced that its delegation would also be returning from Doha after receiving the Hamas response. Prime Minister office has said, in light of the response Hamas delivered this morning, it has been decided to recall the negotiating team to Israel for further consultations. We thought something like this would happen. The PMO, Prime Minister's office, added, we appreciate the efforts of the mediators of Qatar and Egypt, as well as the efforts of envoy Steve Witkoff to achieve a breakthrough in the talks. Just didn't happen. Now, interestingly, according to the Axios reporter Barak Ravid, citing a senior Israeli official and a source familiar with the details, Hamas was demanding the release of 200 terrorists serving life sentences for killing Israelis. They wanted also 200 terrorists besides the deal that was on the table. No, here's what we're adding to 200 terrorists that are serving life sentences for killing Israelis and another 2,000 Palestinian Arabs who were detained in Gaza after October 7th and returned for the release of 10 living hostages. Hamas does not want a deal. We've been saying that for so long. It's the definition of an insanity of doing the same thing over and over again and trying to come up with a different result. This is the theater of the absurd, trying to negotiate with these people. So what's Israel going to do next? Obviously, there won't be any ceasefire hostage deal. So we'll see. And obviously, it's going to be military uh, approach to it. Now, what they will do and to what degree, this is the question. There's a bunch of options. We'll deal with that tomorrow because stories are flying over the head, news cycles all the time, the different websites flying over them, trying to figure out what's next, this and that. So it's kind of hectic here, as you can imagine. So this story just really took everybody by surprise. Basically, the U.S. is throwing in the towel, and we're not going to deal with these guys anymore. And Israel can't deal with them. They're ridiculous. And so we'll have to find something else to do. Now, just to complicate matters all the more at the same time, of all times to do this, we got this problem. France to recognize Palestinian state in September, Macron said. The urgency today is to end the war in Gaza and provide aid to the civilian population. Peace is possible, Macron said. Wow, he couldn't be more wrong or more out of touch, could he? France will recognize a Palestinian state, President Emmanuel Macron wrote in an ex-Twitter post on Thursday. I guess he expects to be ruled by Hamas. True to its historic commitment to a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, I have decided that France will recognize the state of Palestine, wrote Macron. He continued, stating he would make the solemn announcement at the United Nations General Assembly in September. The urgency today is to end the war in Gaza and provide aid to the civilian population. Peace is possible. He further stressed there must be immediate ceasefire The release of all hostages and massive humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza is also necessary to ensure the demilitarization of Hamas, secure and rebuild Gaza. Well, guess what, Macron? Hamas is not going to demilitarize. They're not going to give up their weapons. They're not going to leave Gaza. They don't have to. Why should they? And they're not going to release any of the hostages either. So you're dreaming here, friend. Finally, it's essential to build the state of Palestine, he said, ensure its viability and enable it by accepting its demilitarization and fully recognizing Israel to contribute to the security of all in the Middle East, he said. All right, as you can imagine, the leaders have reacted to his decision in Israel, and they have not been happy. The Yesha Council, the umbrella organization representing Jewish communities in the West Bank, released a statement demanding that the Israeli government respond to French's president declaration of recognition of a Palestinian state by applying Israeli sovereignty to Judea and Samaria. That's what we talked about today. They did this. Remember, the Knesset just voted on this. That was non-binding resolution. It would be Israeli territory, Israeli sovereignty, unique to Judea and Samaria. The Knesset supported. Now it's the government's turn. The excuses are over, the organization said. And so, okay, we voted on this today. Interesting. And Macron says Palestinian state. No, what we're going to do is tell them that Judea and Samaria are Israeli territory. Like we said today, they are given to us, given to them by the God of the Bible, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yisrael Beitenu chairman Avigdor Lieberman said on X, recognizing a Palestinian state as a reward for terrorism and encouragement for Hamas, an organization that carried out the most horrific massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. This is not justice. It's surrender to terrorism. Justice Minister Yariv Levin said French President Macron's decision to recognize the fictitious Palestinian state is a black mark on France's history and direct support for terrorism. He added, the land of Israel belongs to the people of Israel, and even President Macron's declaration cannot change that. It's time to apply Israeli sovereignty to Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley. This is a response of the historical justice to the shameful decision of the French president. Former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett called the decision a moral collapse. It rewards mass murder and tells Islamist terrorists, kill Jews and the world will hand you a state. This shameful decision will be tossed into the dustbin of history, and we trust it will. Now, also in our book, 25 Signs, we're near the end, which we've mentioned before, we have a couple that are appendices. One is who really owns the land, well, who did God give it to, and who are the Palestinians? We find out two things. The land belongs to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, number one. And a second appendix, who are the Palestinians? They're not owners of the land. They were never owned the land. In fact, they're recent comers to the land, as it were. They came there in the last century or so to work. Yasser Arafat, the head of the PLO, was born in Egypt. These people are not native to the land. They have no right to it, no right whatsoever. There's never been a Palestinian language, a Palestinian government, or Palestinian coinage or anything like that. They are not a distinct people. They come from all over the Middle East, and they were created. And the reason they were created, we've talked about this before, in the 1948 War of Independence, which was really interesting. Israel was so outmanned, outgunned, using World War I weapons against the five nations that attacked it, beat back the enemy, and an armistice was declared, and the whole world marveled after Israel. Here's this small little country, this little underdog, beating back these armies, these huge, well-armed Arab armies. And so what happened was that couldn't last. So they had to create an underdog to Israel. In other words, Israel just can't be the underdog. We have to have someone below them that is more needy. And there is the creation of the Palestinians and claiming this was Palestinian land. The Israelis threw them out, et cetera, et cetera. And that's been the lie ever since, that Israel got rid of these people whose land belongs to, which it doesn't, belongs to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so this is why we've gotten to where we've gotten. And it's like Bennett said, it's really a moral collapse on the part of France. And trust me, France will be judged for this, judged big time. Genesis 12, 1-3 is still in the Bible. God's going to bless those that bless and curse those that curse. Finally, headline number 3, Netanyahu to Macron. Palestinian state would be a launch pad to annihilate Israel. He condemns the French president's decision to recognize a Palestinian state. Palestinians don't want a state beside Israel. They want one instead of it. Gideon Sa'ar said a Palestinian state would be a Hamas state. Prime Minister Netanyahu responded also on Thursday, saying, with the announcement that France would officially recognize the state of Palestine, We strongly condemn President Macron's decision to recognize a Palestinian state next to Tel Aviv in the wake of the October 7th massacre. Such a move rewards terror and risks creating another Iranian proxy, just as Gaza became. A Palestinian state in these conditions will be a launch pad to annihilate Israel, not to live in peace beside it. Let's be clear, the Palestinians do not seek a state alongside Israel. They seek a state instead of Israel, he said, and this is so true. Gideon Saar again said the French president's pretension to create, he's foreign minister now, to create by mere words an illusory arrangement in our land is ridiculous and not serious. His statement this evening shows that all the conditions that he himself set a few weeks ago have evaporated. All that remains is the illusionary state he presumes to establish. A Palestinian state will be a Hamas state, and then Netanyahu said, just as the withdrawal from the Gaza Strip 20 years ago led Hamas to take control of it. Other Israeli leaders similarly blasted Macron's announcement on Thursday evening. Macron just awarded Hamas a prize for committing the October 7th massacre. This shameful act is nothing less than a betrayal of the so-called leaders of the free world. It sends a chilling message. Terrorism pays off, said Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana. And so it goes. So two huge stories. First of all, giving up on the hostage talks, ceasefire talks there in Qatar with Hamas. We'll see what happens next there. And then you've got this horrible announcement by Macron. We're going to unilaterally declare a Palestinian state. Well, you really don't have any authority to do so. And again, there's no such thing as the Palestinian people to begin with. Wow. So what's going to happen next? Stay tuned. We'll have all the latest tomorrow. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks so much for watching. Until then, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.